Welcome back to the program. Joining me now, Rex Nelson, senior editor at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you.
Roby, always good to be here. Thank you.
Just glad that you're, able to give us some more time on air here. I appreciate that.
Always happy to do so.
Let's begin with the Arkansas Food Hall of Fame. It announced this year's winners. I want you to tell me, where would you prefer to eat? Cream Castle of Blytheville, the Bulldog Restaurant in Bald Knob, or Ozark Cafe in Jasper?
Yes. I love them all. You know that.
I do.
I consider all 75 counties my beat. And one thing we have tried to do at the Hall of Fame, and I've been on the selection committee since we began it 7 years ago, is spread these awards out around the state. So we have the iconic Ozark Cafe on the square in Jasper and tiny Newton County, and then we go way over to northeast Arkansas to Blytheville, which I have proclaimed as the barbecue capital of Arkansas. There's several places I love there, but certainly Cream Castle is worthy of induction there. So, we're getting out into the rural areas of Arkansas, into the smaller towns.
You could knock two of them out at the same time if you just drove through Bald Knob to Blytheville on your way.
Yeah, the Bulldog in Bald Knob was our third one. And it's great 12 months a year, but most people know them for the strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
And we are getting real near as we enter spring, that announcement when they will put out, we now have strawberry shortcake, and literally, I've been there on that first day. The traffic goes out, backs up onto the highway and down the highway to go through their drive-through at the Bulldog in Bald Knob.
It's good. I think last June I was driving back from somewhere in northeast Arkansas and came back through Bald Knob, and I was like, you know what? I'm taking a time out. Just went in there. I got a hot dog and I got a strawberry shortcake.
Yeah, you've got to stop at the Bulldog. Anytime I go to Jonesboro, northeast Arkansas, I just work in that into the schedule.
All right, let's turn our attention to the Arkansas Legislature, where they are feasting up there on a variety of legislation. I want to start with the stuff that heralds the most complaints first. We've seen bathroom bills, pronoun bills, transgender bills, book bans in libraries. Do you think that all of this is hurting Arkansas's national reputation?
I certainly think so.
How do you know that it is, though?
I think we will know when you see certain highly skilled people that a Walmart needs, that a Tyson needs, that a Dillard's needs, saying, no, that's just not the kind of place I want to live.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good people out there like Tom and Stuart Walton working on quality of life initiatives, everything from cycling trails to great restaurants. But if we are seen as having a regressive, extremist government in Arkansas, ultimately that is going to hurt in that area. And it is. I don't think it is underestimating to say it is an absolute train wreck. I wrote 2 years ago, it was the worst legislative session in my lifetime, at least in my memory. This is worse because the difference is 2 years ago, we had a pragmatic, moderate governor in Asa Hutchinson that would push back a little bit. Now we have an extremist governor to go along with the extremist in the legislature, so there is no pushback. In fact, there almost seems to be a deal. Governor, you let us run our crazy culture war stuff, and we won't ask any questions about your legislation. We'll just rubber stamp it.
Yeah, I would disagree with you that it's that cut and dry, but there is definitely some.
There's a lot of that. Let me tell you.
There's a lot of like-mindedness in the legislature.
Yeah, Roby, you had dozens of people sign on as co-sponsors of the education bill before the bill had been drafted. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
And then everybody, the majority, fell in line. I can guarantee you a lot of those never read that bill. I'm sure some have never read 145 pages of anything in their lives. And so they didn't read that bill, and that's where I get back to the rubber stamping going on. And on a lot of these bills, we're going to pay for it as Arkansas taxpayers because there's going to be litigation, and the Attorney General's office is going to be very busy these next few years.
All right, you've been critical of Governor Sarah Sanders on your personal blog, Rex Nelson Southern Fried. What's your beef?
That she's more interested in a national political profile, in raising money nationally. Why are you raising money when you're not going to be on the ballot for another 3 years for the next campaign? I don't get it. but the interest of our governor and her top aides in the office really seems in playing the national political campaign rather than governing. They seem to me to be totally disinterested, to be frank with you, in the hard work of running state government.
When I look at what this legislature and this new governor are doing, it mirrors to me, though, what we see in Texas. It mirrors to me what we see in Missouri. It mirrors what we see in Mississippi and Florida. I mean, I guess I'm not saying this is an Arkansas thing. This seems to be a national thing to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make it any better.
I understand.
One of the things we had going for us,
going along,
one of the things we had going for us in Arkansas, and I've got a column coming up that points this out, is that from 1940 to 1960, we lost population faster per capita than any state in the Union. We were a laughingstock of the country. We really were. I was born in 1959 when we were at a low point. We've been gaining population since the 60s. What happened? One thing is that we had a long line of moderate, pragmatic governors beginning in January of 1967 when Winthrop Rockefeller took office. That lasted through Asa Hutchinson. It's still early. I admit, it's still early. There's time for course corrections. But certainly in these first 3 months, to me, it seems that era has come to an end.
You mentioned the LEARNS Act earlier. Point to some things that you think are good in that bill.
Certainly teacher pay increases are good. I think that focus on reading is a very good thing. I don't think we can ever do enough for pre-K. I think that is certainly critical. In philosophically, I'm conservative philosophically. The idea of allowing parents to choose. I'm a big supporter of charter schools. I think that's fine. I think this voucher system, though, is wrong for Arkansas, a rural state where there aren't any private schools within miles and miles for many of our parents to choose from. So I don't think it's a fit for Arkansas. And that's what happens when you take a national blueprint, which is what they did. They brought in an agent from Florida. They took a national blueprint and just stamped it onto Arkansas. Arkansas is unique, and so now we have taken this blueprint, and we're going to have some years of very interesting both litigation and rules making by the Board of Education to see if we can implement this stuff.
We will have a long period of all of that going on. All right, lastly, when the legislature gets back from their recess for spring break, it will be the 12th week of the legislative session. We still have not seen the major piece of legislation on sentencing reform and criminal justice. Why do you think that is?
I think there was probably, again, not a written agreement, but kind of an understanding, with the governor's office that we will kind of get out of the way. We'll let education get done so these aren't on a dual track, attracting attention for each other, and then we will come with that. We're also getting to that hard time when we have to figure out how we're going to pay for all this stuff, Roby. And that's another
the nail
reason.
On the head right there.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have to do the Revenue Stabilization Act, which requires a balanced budget in Arkansas. How are we going to balance this budget? That is going to determine how much of this justice reform we can actually afford to do now that we've put a lot of new money into education.
We got to do tax cuts too, but we got to wrap up. So we won't have time for that. Let's go find something to eat. You want to do that? All
Good.
Right. You
we'll watch the smoke continue to come from the train wreck over at the Capitol.
He's Rex Nelson. He's senior editor at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to catch
Thanks,
up with
Roby.
you.
Appreciate it.
All right. We're back with more right after this.